Miss me? I'm back. It's the Security Weekly News, episode 214. I'm Doug White, and welcome to the week of 29 May 2022. It's almost the end of May already. Today, we've got flying pastry, Twitter policies and fines, Office, VMWARE, Zyxel, digital driver's license, and Verizon, along with Jason Wood on this episode of Security Weekly News.
This is Security Weekly. For security professionals, by security professionals.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
It's the show that keeps you up to date on the latest security news twice a week. Your trusted source for accurate security information and expert analysis. It's time for Security Weekly News. Monitoring and maintaining compliance is a never-ending struggle with a high price of failure. FIREMON helps customers meet complex and varying compliance requirements. FIREMON has fully customizable reporting, analytics, assessments, and dashboards to meet the compliance needs of any organization. With FIREMON, compliance reports take a tenth of the time, and real-time continuous compliance eliminates the anxiety and headaches of audit preparation. Improve security outcomes by improving security operations with FIREMON. Visit securityweekly.com/FIREMON to learn more.
Right now, everybody is talking about cryptocurrency, and the cyber criminals are hiding in the conversation. Cyber criminals use social engineering loaded with urgency and fear to successfully prey on your company, your employees, and your customers. Spear phishing is just one of 13 types of email threats, and Barracuda has identified these 13 types and shows you how you can protect your company, your customers, and your reputation. Find out about the 13 email threat types and Barracuda email protection. Get your free ebook at securityweekly.com/Barracuda. That is securityweekly.com/Barracuda. Yeah. All right. Holiday's over. It's a holiday in the United States. Come Memorial Day. The holiday's over. Thanks, great-great-great-grandfather DeVault, who served in the Union Army, and my dad, who served in the U.S. Army in the Korean War, my uncle, who invaded Sicily, and my friend Dan, who jumped into Normandy, along with all the other people who did whatever they did that I never got to meet. So, good job. All right. Well, a proof of concept for the auth bypass vulnerability in VMware has now been made available online, which means, of course, that makes it easy for everybody else to start exploiting this. So that means people are going to go out and grab things and bring that to bear. You just can't expose your management interfaces, okay? I mean, what you do in the privacy of your own server room, that's between you and your hardware. But if you're going to let everybody in the world access your management interfaces, well, you're going to have major issues. And we've talked about this before, right? We've had this conversation, and all that's a lot worse than monkeypox, whatever monkeypox is. But if you don't recall, this is for CVE 2022-22972, which impacts Workspace ONE Access, VMware Identity Manager, and vRealize. So 3 big products from VMware. Horizon 3 released a proof of concept and an analysis for the whole vulnerability on the 26th. So it is out there now, and everybody's going to be able to use it. Basically what happened with them was their script that they provided as proof of concept bypasses vRealize Automation 7.6 specifically. The Workspace ONE and VIDM ones are a little bit different, they said, and that script would not work on those, but they said it was a minor change to get it to work. So you could adapt it. The vulnerability itself is a host header manipulation, which, we've talked about those before, and host header manipulations are, of course, where we make changes in the HTML to substitute tokens and capture tokens and things like that. But there are workarounds on the VMware site if you can't patch, but there is a patch available as well. And I mean, do you really want to be that person who's testifying? I mean, this is how I always see the world, is like, are you the person who's testifying and you say, and they're saying, so there was a patch available and a workaround, and Doug White said to do it, but you chose to ignore it, and you go, wait, but there was, and they go, just answer the question, please. Did you or did you not patch the system when a patch was available? So you're going to be the person sitting there. So if you're using VMware and using any of those products, it is definitely time to check for patches. And I know there's patches there because I actually patched one of mine on Thursday. So, if you have not done this yet, it would be a good time to do so. And I know it's so tough to patch VMware. I mean, for me, I would wait till school was out so nobody was using it. But for most of you don't get that luxury. So the other day, I had to pay one of those lame traffic camera fines, those stupid things. And it was like $40. I mean, so like 4 cigars, 4 Paul cigars. So the good ones. Actually, it was only like one of Paul's cigars. But, so no big deal. Well, Twitter got fined $150 million, which for me would be a big deal. For Paul, would even be a big deal. But I think for Twitter, it was about the same thing as my $40 traffic camera ticket. But anyway, the FTC, which is the Federal Trade Commission in the United States, fined Twitter $150 million for using, wait for it, your phone number and email address that you were required in order to add two-factor authentication, which everybody's recommending. And what did they do with it? Well, they wanted to sell targeted ads. I mean, so thanks, guys. But, you can't trust anybody these days. So now even your security information is going to be up for sale. Now, the FTC says you can't. Now, I mean, I never doubted for a second that they were selling every bit of this stuff and anything. If they have it all, and they do, they're going to sell it. I mean, it's valuable. Somebody's willing to pay for it. And I hate to tell you, they have it. They're going to sell it. I mean, they're going to tell them they can't. They're going to pass rules that they can't, and they're going to find new ways around it, and on and on and on. Because, that company selling those horny goat weed tablets, they got to get your info so they can peddle the horny goat weed to you, whatever the hell horny goat weed is. And we were talking about this last week, and I was like, what is this? And then I saw it at the grocery store. We were looking for something, and we saw a bottle of horny goat weed, and I'm like, I don't know what it is, but it's got a pretty cool name, I guess. It sounds like a heavy metal band. But anyway, the FTC has a rule which bans companies, well, some companies, and only companies in the U.S., and then only some of them, but some of them. And they're banned by the FTC from misrepresenting security and privacy practices to profit from collected data. So basically what this is designed for is they can't say, you have to give us your social security number and your telephone number because, oh no, what if we didn't have that? And then turn around and sell all that to, Nigerian princes and such. But anyway, given it's the government, you might expect that all these incidents occurred a long time ago, and of course they did. But this settlement basically prohibits, this is what all they put in the settlement besides the fine. So these are probably more important. They prohibit Twitter from profiting from deceptively collected data. Okay, well, that's nice. They allow users to use other multi-factor methods which would not require personal data. So instead of being forced to use what Twitter was using, which made you put that in, you can actually use your own authenticator app and still get multi-factor on Twitter. They require Twitter to notify users that it misused their data, changes their policies, and limit employee access to user data. Some of this came from that hack. So when they had a hack that got a bunch of data that was being captured, that was sort of how this all got uncovered. And Twitter now is required to notify the FTC if any other breaches occur. Yeah, at least until Elon buys it, and then we'll see what happens. But speaking of Twitter, and I have to say I like this article about privacy policies and about policies in general. So just the other day as well, I was having to sign some things, and I noticed that I was, they handed me this clipboard and they said, sign all this. And you're like looking at it going, wow, do I need like 3 or 4 attorneys? I was signing like 25 physical printed pages that had all sorts of, and furthermore, and I was like, okay, I mean, they can probably harvest my organs and stuff now. But I mean, does anybody read this stuff? I mean, I know some of you probably do, but I mean, we get these all the time. Every single website, every single app, every single everything that you use has endless policies with it. And, there's other people waiting behind you in line at the restaurant, and they're asking you to sign a 35-page, acceptable use policy about what they're going to do with your credit card information. And you're going, well, maybe I should take the time to read this. And people are like, come on. But, I mean, you really need a team of shark-like corporate attorneys to spend about 3 weeks to review this and then charge you $50,000 and then tell you, I don't know, I wouldn't sign it. But, and of course, you're like, well, what am I supposed to do? We need this product. And they're like, well, I don't know, I wouldn't sign it. But, I mean, I just had that experience as well. And I sent a document to an attorney, waited the requisite weeks for it to be reviewed, and got it back with, well, I wouldn't sign that. It's not a very good contract. And it's like, okay. And I mean, I didn't have a lot of leverage in this situation. And I mean, how many times have you hit that accept button? Like you want to do this, you want to read this article, you want to play this video game, you want to do this stuff, hit the accept button. And like I noticed on this hard drive that I was installing, I had to click accept on a multi-page document just to register the warranty. I mean, it wasn't even like to use it. It was like, it was this huge document that I was supposed to click OK to just to register the warranty. So I passed. I didn't register the warranty, which is probably what they wanted anyway, because then, now they'll say, we don't have to pay the warranty. But anyway, this particular article is about the new Twitter policy that is 4,500 words long for the privacy policy. I mean, 4,500 words. Who wrote it? Oh, yeah, I know who wrote it. An attorney that gets paid by the hour, I'm sure. Sorry, attorneys. I get paid by the hour, too. It's fine. But apparently, they turned part of the policy into a game called Twitter Data Dash, where you play this game while you're learning the policy, which sounds so convenient when you just want to log into Twitter. But okay, cool. I'll play this video game to get past the policy. Now I have to negotiate the Maze of Agamemnon and defeat the Balrog of Helm's Deep in order to accept the policy. So, yeah, that's going to work. But apparently Facebook has also got on this bandwagon. They've issued a requirement that their policies have to be written at it says a secondary school reading level. I don't even know what that means. Like, is that college? But it meant that it increased the length of their policy to 12,000 words. 1,000 words. Not letters, not bits, words. So, I mean, look, folks, I don't care if you never use Latin in your policy. 12,000 words is not secondary school reading level. Multiple choice questions are barely able to hold people's attention in like a sentence. And is anybody really going to read and understand? I mean, not just read it, not just say, I'm going to do it, but are you really going to read, retain, and understand a 12,000 word policy in the amount of time you want to spend reading policies before you can post a picture of your kid drooling on the cat? So a 2019 survey said that only 9% of Americans said they had actually read any of these policies. And I mean, seriously, does anybody read them? I mean, I didn't install something, like I said, I had this weekend. I just didn't want to install it. I didn't want the app that bad. The policy went on and on and on. All I wanted to do was to look at something. I mean, it had a cookie policy, a location tracking policy, the acceptable use policy. And I was actually looking at it because I was like, I don't know, it's a creepy app, from China. And I'm like, what am I signing here? I mean, all I wanted to know was, is this plant in my yard poisonous? So I just went and ate a little bit of I ate one of the leaves off the plant. I waited to see if I would die. I mean, my ancestors did that, and they didn't need no stinking 12,000 word policy to determine if the plant was safe. I do think the article is good, though, and it's about understandability. And why can't we just say what we mean? I mean, how hard is it to say, look, we're going to collect everything about you that you type in this site, that it's legal, and we're going to sell it like crazy. We're going to sell it to the highest bidder. We're going to sell it to anybody who can afford it. So we're just letting you know. Thanks. I mean, there you go. There's a privacy policy. Did that need to be 455 pages long so that you could sit there for 2 days with 15 attorneys trying to figure out what any of it means? Okay, I'll stop. Zyxel, I don't know how you say that. Zyxel issued an alert about multiple vulnerabilities in their firewall, access points, and access point controller products. So they had 4 separate flaws, which only one was high severity, and it was disclosed in this particular alert. But that some combination of these flaws may likely impact USG Zywall, USG Flex, ATP VPN, NSG firewalls, NXC 2500, and NXC 550 access point controllers, and a whole bunch of their access points, their actual access points. And you may at home, if you're a home user, you may not be here, know what Zyxel is, but you see those controllers all over the place. So they're very heavily used in corporate and enterprise type stuff. So if you do have those, definitely check this article out. They do have patches for almost all of these. There was some of the APs that only would allow a hot fix, and I think there were some APs that did not have a fix for this. But one thing I didn't like was that you actually have to send a request to your local service rep who will then determine if you're eligible to receive a hotfix. Which I'm like, come on, guys. If there's people with a product, let them patch it. But anyway, if you're using those kind of products, be sure and check that out. Now, I've been on about digital license plates and driver's license for years. I mean, some little card you carry around with you that's supposed to be, actually identify you or whatever, I don't think is worth anything. I mean, and I guess some places have been listing that stuff. New South Wales in Australia, which is the most populous district in our state, I don't remember what they call it in Australia, but they launched a digital driver's license program in 2019, and as of 2021, about half of the 8 million people in New South Wales were using the app, which displays this DDL. So you put it on your phone, it pops it up, and they can see it. I don't know why they can't just look it up, but whatever. Now, I don't trust apps, and I was always thinking more along the lines of like an ID barcode that was tattooed on your eyelids or something. But I mean, that was just me. And then I heard an app, and I'm like, oh yeah, what could go wrong with that? But Devon, who is a person that was tweeting about this, says that Devon, the person, has been able to brute force the app using nothing more than a Python script and a stock laptop. True naked hacking. Good job. But after breaking it, Devon says that once they got in, there were numerous security flaws, which made it simple to alter the digital driver's license in the app. All in all, 5 separate design flaws were found in the New South Wales DDL app. And I mean, it actually uses a 4-digit PIN. I mean, a la 1995 as an unlock code. And apparently the 4-digit PIN is also, wait for it, the decryption key for the license JSON. Yeah, that wasn't what I had in mind at all. Facial barcode tattoo. I'm telling you, it's coming. Anyway. There is a 0-day in Microsoft Office which will allow malware to run on targeted systems using a remote Word template feature. Originally, this was thought to only be in older versions of Microsoft Office, but that's no longer true. They updated the article. Now, SEC tweeted a warning about this 0-day over the weekend. Kevin Beaumont named the vulnerability Felina, which is a reference to an Italian area code, which actually that number is in the 0-day. And it's the locale of Felina, Italy, 0438. And Felina's in Treviso, if you've ever been to that region, which is just north of Venice. It's a really nice area. But yeah, I don't think I've ever been to Felina, but I've probably driven through it. But basically, it's a template which can download an HTML file from a remote server. So it's, you have these templates you can use in Word, and they sort of stay attached to the Word document later. And modern templates, and by which I mean, stuff from even, I think, 2013, basically can actually pull in things from remote servers on the fly. But in this particular case, the server that downloading things from is in Belarus, which is a Russian ally or a puppet state, depending on which side you're on. But the HTML code that is there uses the MS protocol URL scheme to load and execute a PowerShell script. And this MSDT, which is the actual protocol itself, is a method which is used. It stands for Microsoft Support Diagnostic Tool, and it's used to pull information back and forth to Microsoft about stuff that's going on. Apparently, this worked even if you had macros disabled, since it's not really a macro. And Beaumont said that this affects older versions of Office 2013 and 2016 flavors, and then that endpoint detection also missed this attack. Now then, DDA Stevens said he was able to exploit the Felina problem on a fully patched version of Office 2021. And a working proof was then tweeted by John Hammond. So this is out there as well. So it's definitely worth checking out if you're supporting Office. Verizon's data breach investigation report, or DBIR as they call it, is for the 2022 version is out and basically showed what a lot of us have been saying. They basically found that ransomware is a continuing upward trend, which makes a lot of common sense to me. I mean, it's easy. You can do it quickly. It makes you money, and it's really hard to stop. So, they showed a 25% increase, though, in ransomware occurrences in 2021. So it's really on the uptick. Ransoms also were increasing and increased 13% over 2020. So not only are they doing it more, they're asking for more money. The more interesting thing to me was that they also did show that the big problem is people. I mean, how long have we been saying that? I mean, I think the first time I said that was in 1986. And I mean, I always talk about that infinite series and that, you won't do it. You won't give out the information. You won't click the link. You won't do that, but someone will. And I'll just keep trying until I do, because it's an infinite series. I can continue. I can just keep redialing until I get that one person who is distracted or whatever, and they click the link or they listen to me for a while. The report showed that 82% of breaches in 2021 involved a human element. I mean, I'm not surprised. Somebody's going to click the link, right? So the assumption needs to be that you will be compromised, because unless you find a way to separate your employees from their equipment, or you find really good multi-factor solutions that can stop some of this, it's just going to keep happening. Anyway, it's a really interesting report, and it's very scary as ever. A master of balloon animals, it's said he can convert literally anything into the format. Once having manufactured a working McLaren GT completely out of small balloons and some lubricant. It was not drivable, however, in the state of California due to an exhaust issue. Nevertheless, here's Jason Wood.
And that was a quick cut over. No wind up.
I started to just go, here's Jason.
Caught me off guard for a moment there. All right. Well, hey, everybody. It's welcome back from, at least for those of us in the U.S., welcome back from the long weekend. This story actually kind of caught my attention. It's ransomware with a bit of an unusual twist. This headline from Graham Cluley's blog pretty much just jumped out of the page at me. It's basically the headline is "Ransomware demands acts of kindness to get your files back," end quote. Now, I have heard a number of different plays on extortion and via ransomware or threat of data leakage or blackmail or what have you. But this one caught my attention because I've never seen anything like this. The ransomware is being called goodwill, and you will see why as we're talking about this. And Graham's post basically links back to a report by a company named CloudSec. They do a report on the ransomware itself and provide IOCs related to it. One thing I noticed, the initial access, how they got in, isn't covered in the post, so we don't know exactly what they're doing to try and get in, but I would guess this is going to come back to some kind of phishing attack, given that the payloads appear to be hosted on, basically some different URLs. All of them are ngrok URLs, actually. To get at the payloads and stuff like that. So I assume somebody's getting a link, clicking on it, and then finding themselves in a world of hurt. Regardless however they got there, the ransomware operation starts off pretty much the way you would expect. The data gets all encrypted up and a ransom note gets left. But this is where it changes, and I will just read their initial statement here on what it is they're doing and why they're doing it, because it's just kind of interesting to read. Here we go. Our aim, the word goodwill means to show kindness. Story. Team Goodwill is not hungry of money and wealth, but kindness. We want to make every person on the planet to be kind and wants to give them a hard lesson to always remember to always help poor and needy people. So all our victims need to be gentle and kind to get their files back. We know that you are very excited to play. I'm sure they are. Take deep breath and look around for those who need your help. No way. The only way to help yourself is to help others. Hope you understand. Punctuation obviously is all over the place, is grammar. So they got your data all crypted up, but hopefully you understand this is actually for a good cause, so that makes it right. But their demands are as follows. They've got like 3 or 4 different demands that you have to meet. First off, the victims have to donate blankets and clothing to homeless folks, people living on the street, living it rough. How do we know that they're living it rough on the street? Because you have to, or if you're a victim, you have to basically go and take a video or pictures of yourself handing out clothing and blankets and stuff like that to folks who are homeless. And then you have to post that to your Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp profiles. Supposedly, this is to encourage others to give as well, which, hey, I like the idea of doing service. I spend some of my time doing that as well. But yeah, that's pretty, I don't know, kind of nasty here how they're going about this, is to twist people's arms into it. Next, the victims need to post selfies of themselves taking 5 children who appear in some way to be poor or needy under the age of 13 to a fast food restaurant and allowing them to order everything they want. And they provide a photo frame that you can put your pictures in to use on your social media posts. And the words on that, I kind of chuckle at. They've got the frame around it, and then they got a nice border that says, "I help needy peoples. Goodwill, goodwill, goodwill. I am kind, so much kind." And then to prove that enough money was spent, the victims have to email the attackers a snapshot of the bill. So far, we're not too crazy expensive. The third demand can get pretty pricey, at least for consumers if they get hit, though I suspect it would maybe a lot less for typical business ransomware demands. The victim needs to go to the nearest hospital, walk into the ER or wherever, take a look around, find somebody that looks like they're hurting for money, turn on record on the audio of your phone or video, get pictures of this, but basically walk up and record your conversation with this person as you explain to them that you are covering their bill here at the hospital. Don't worry about it. They've got everything taken care of. and then you take that recording of their reaction and send it over to the attackers, again, to prove that we're being good boys and girls. The final demand requires that the victims post a note to their social media feeds that explains, and this is a quote, how you transformed yourself into a kind human being by becoming a victim of a ransomware called Goodwill, end quote. Pretty cool there, huh? Once all this has been done and the group validates that you have done what was demanded of you, they will go ahead and provide you with decryption tools, passwords, and a video tutorial, which I'm sure is very helpful on how to unlock your data and get it back. I'm not entirely sure who the targeted audience here is. Again, is this consumer or business or just anybody? I don't know. The OPSEC around this looks just sketchy as can be. As you read the post by CloudSec, one, we've got this interaction via social media. So are we requiring a connection request here? We have to connect to some kind of account so that they can see our posts and monitor us, validate victim compliance to the demands, or do we just have to publish it publicly and send them the URL to the post so they can tie it back to us? And that avoids the need for them to have a connection request. Not sure there. Doesn't say in the write-ups. CloudSec did denote some other things, though, that made the OPSEC look pretty dicey to me. The email address for the ransomware operations, it was traced back to an IT security company in India, which may or may not mean anything, but the systems associated or that were used to host the files, in addition to using ngrok URLs, are all hosted on AWS in a data center in Mumbai, and the code itself of the ransomware contains comments from the attackers that appear to be written in Hindi. The code itself looks like it has some pretty good overlap with the hidden tier ransomware, which is an open source ransomware that is or somewhere was on GitHub. So perhaps some IT folks decide they want to get into the ransomware business, and hey, we've got some free and open source ransomware. We'll just make some tweaks, call it Goodwill, use something like a Goodwill file extension to ransom the files as far as that goes, and we can paint ourselves as doing something good to the world, regardless of the motive. Still illegal, guys. It doesn't matter how madly you want people to take care of folks in need. This type of stuff is just going to, get you in a world of hurt. Unless they are doing some elaborate stuff to frame up somebody else as the operators of the ransomware. If not, they're just asking to get arrested. Defenses against the attacks. Well, it's the same as any other ransomware. Making sure that you're got your good backups, you've tested your recovery plans, you've got things offline. Endpoint security is up to date, and got blocking turned on, etc. None of that really changes here. The only notable exception is the steps required to get your data back. It's not as simple as going out and getting some cryptocurrency, sending it off to a wallet, and hoping for a decryption mechanism that actually works. Instead, we do a bunch of other stuff publicly, and then hopefully we get a decryption tool that works and we get our data back. As to the Goodwill ransomware operators themselves, I know you guys are trying to teach everybody a hard lesson to always help poor and needy people, but I suspect you are setting yourselves up for a pretty hard lesson in what jail is like, because, again, the OPSEC looks pretty sketchy. Pretty wild blog post, I think, to read. If you would like to take a closer look, check out our show notes. Got the links there to Graham's blog, and then you can follow that over to CloudSec's analysis and the IOCs there. So everybody be kind, I guess.
I really like that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And finally, I love France. Really, I do. It's one of my favorite places, and I go there whenever I get a chance. They have great food, great people. It's a beautiful place. They have all kinds of different stuff there, wine, all kind of foie gras, all kind of good stuff. But it's also quirky. They have unusual stuff in France too, and not quite Times Square 1980 quirky, where I once saw a guy squeezing sweat out of a T-shirt and drinking it, but quirky nevertheless. So apparently a man disguised himself as an elderly woman and was in a wheelchair, so sort of, Norman Bates kind of look, and arranged to have himself taken into the Louvre, which is, the art museum, and with the pyramid and all that, and because was in a wheelchair, was taken up close to a really old painting called the Mona Lisa, which you've probably heard of. Now, normally, due to all the drooling tourists who know absolutely nothing about art, who are crowding around this painting, desperate to see this work by Michelangelo, who was an Italian, by the way, you can't get anywhere near it. I mean, it's literally like if you go in there, there's just this massive swarm of people who probably don't even know anything about art at all, but they got to see it. So they make all this effort. And I'm always kind of confused in art museums by this. There's all these people who are frantically trying to video paintings, and, they video the plaque and all that. And so they can take the video home and show great Aunt Maud that they saw the Mona Lisa, which I think is more of an ego thing than it is about, making sure your family gets to see this really boring video of paintings that you went and saw somewhere else. But there's a lot of cooler paintings in the Louvre, honestly. And there's a lot of cooler paintings by Michelangelo and other stuff than that particular portrait, which just, for whatever reason, catches everybody's attention. I mean, it's a beautiful work of art, but it's just kind of like, really? I mean, this is what you chose? But, and I'm sure Michelangelo would have said, all the things I did, and that's it? That's the one you want to see? Okay, well, whatever. But anyway, at the given moment, the fake old lady sprung out of the chair and yelled in French, "People who are destroying the planet, that's why I did it," and proceeded to smear a pastry on the glass. Now, I mean, he's yelling in French, so probably there was about 3 people I know it's in France and everything, but, French people are looking at other stuff, but, so there's all the tourists are there, and the guy's yelling in French and smearing pastry on the painting. So, I mean, but that, that's France. I mean, smear a mifui on the painting and that's a dead Italian in front of a bunch of tourists and yell something random in French. Hey, at least great Aunt Maud's going to get a good show when you get home. And that's the news. Thanks, Jason. See you Friday for the return of the wrap-up show. Bye.